Hey, everybody. As you can hear, the clock has tolled, and it's time for another episode of Shop Time Live with Balsa USA and Mean Joe. For this episode, we're going to have Linda Crooks on from the Warbirds and Classics Alliance, and she's going to give us some information on events and stuff that's coming up and talk to us about how all that's going to work this year with the changes. And we're going to hear from Linda about what's going on. Linda, first off, I want to thank you very much for being with us. I hope you and Dennis are remaining safe during all this craziness. Very cool.
Yeah, we're kind of just prolonging our hibernation. I mean, when we come off the road at the end of the season, we just kind of don't leave home a whole lot. And Dennis is really enjoying this.
Yeah, actually, and you know, I've talked about that on every episode so far. Us as model airplane folks kind of have been doing social distancing for decades. You know, we get it. You come out of the winter, you come out of the fall, and you start getting everything wrapped up, and then everybody goes into the shop, and you know, we always spend all winter making dust. So yeah, it's one of those things where
the next spring with all these new airplanes.
Exactly. And for me, it's been both. It's been good and bad. The good is I'm getting a lot of stuff done in the shop that I wasn't able to really get to on a regular basis. Now I've got the time. We've been able to get the Shop Time Live thing going that we've been discussing for a while. And now, you know, there's lots of projects getting going. So
exactly. The same way here. I've been trying to make sure that the websites are up and everything, you know, is within a loop, even though we are somewhat in a holding pattern. I want at least the social media end of it to still be up and running. And I've been able to do that. And for those that don't know where Dennis and I live, we own a farm that has been in our family since 1836. And so when we're on the road with airplanes, the farm's kind of being neglected once in a while. So this staying at home, Dennis is back to doing both. He's out on the farm and he's working and getting things cleaned up and ready for spring. And on rainy days or cold days, he's in building and working on robot projects. So right now, we're doing really well. So.
John Cease just stopped in. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hi, John.
One of the stories that I always tell folks, I always have gotten a big kick out of it, is we were doing I think Chuck was doing the build for the Berman Hobbies shop. And we were there. They were doing a covering demo, I believe, on the airplane, the 6-scale pup him and Ronnie built for the video series. I think Lee was involved in that as well. And we're standing there, and this guy comes in with Linda. And I'm telling you what, I had seen Dennis in like October, and it was Dennis. I recognized Dennis right away. And this guy walks in with Linda, and he walks over and he shakes my hand. And it took me 5-10 minutes to figure out who the guy was. Dennis come in there full mountain man mode, wearing his bib overalls. He's got a beard that looks like he's been growing it for 6 years. And it's crazy. So, you know, to Linda's point, when they get done with the season, they go back to the farm and it's mountain man time. I was just blown away by the difference in how he looks from season to season. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah. My first experience with that was with airplane modeling. We would be out at the field all day flying with everyone, and everybody had hats on. We'd go out to dinner that night, and I'd walk up to a table, and they're all hollering, "Hey, Linda, Dennis, how you doing?" And I'm going, "Who are these people?" And I realized that, you know, some guys that I thought had hair didn't, and others didn't.
Right. And that was one of the things I struggled with, because I always, as you know, when we're out at the field, I'm always got my flying hat on. And my flying hat's seen better days, so I'm going to order a new one. And I struggled with whether or not I should have it for the podcast, and I decided it was going to get in my way with all the stuff I've got going on there. So I've already had a couple people ask where the hat was. So, yeah, it's pretty funny. So one of the reasons we're doing this is to make sure that everybody kind of gets a little bit of the Toledo experience. As we all know, events have been kind of up in the air this year. Events have been being canceled. there's a lot of stuff still on the fence for the current season. I know Joe Nall actually just made their announcement on the 2nd that they will be canceling the regular Joe Nall. As of right now, the fall Nall is still on, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything change on that yet.
Top Gun's the same way. They're going to have October dates.
Yeah, they're going to change the dates for that. We were talking about that yesterday with, I think, Greg, if I'm not mistaken. I've talked to so many people in the last 48 hours. It's hard to keep straight.
Yeah.
But
as for the Alliance, I've been trying to reach out and talk to all of them and keep abreast of things. What the Alliance is doing is supporting whatever the individual event decides to do. Obviously, the ones coming up, like the first two in June, Warbirds and Classics over Michigan, and then Windy City Warbirds and Classic in Illinois, they have a little bit harder decision to make. But whatever they decide to do, me and the Alliance will support them 100%. If they want to postpone their date and try to slide in later into this year, that's just fine. Each show, each event has to make their own mind up for what's best for their club, what's best for their community, what's best for the pilots. I feel like this particular, I don't even know what the word is. The way the world is right now is a lot like a safety factor. We have to look at it from what's safe for the people involved, whether it's the workers, spectators, pilots, whatever. It's kind of hard, to be quite honest, to make up a mind. You know, you being a promoter myself, you live to put your show on so that you can see all the guys and girls that are out flying and having fun and things like this. So you hate to say, no, we're not having this year, but this year's a little different. So in order for us to stay healthy and fly in many years to come, if a show decides that they want to cancel, then they have my support. If they want to continue on, I will support them there too. The Alliance website is up and running and current. There's a picture of it. Okay, it's warbirdsandclassics.com. And this is the homepage that's showing. And on the homepage is all the current dates. Now, we have had one event, Air Supremacy over Goshen, that has had to cancel. And the letter that they sent out is actually on their page within this website, so that you can click on that. So if you clicked on literally the word update, you go to this page, which is their individual page on the site, and you will see the letter from Chuck and RJ explaining why that they have had to cancel this year. They are on airport property, so that brings in a whole different set of logistics, where other people are on private property, parked property. So they have to take all of that into consideration. But the website, I will keep posted. I'm the webmaster on it. So if there's a problem, I've got nobody to blame but me. And we will keep you all posted, as well as on Facebook, whenever any of the shows make a decision whether to continue on or to postpone or cancel for this year.
Perfect. So real quick, I'm going to copy the link to the website into the chat. So if anybody needs that information on the Warbirds and Classics, it will be there. You can gather all that information there. The website is updated pretty quickly, actually. So if you need anything information-wise, all the dates are still here. Now, I will tell you that my home field, Warbirds and Classics over Michigan, at this point, we have not made any decisions on whether to cancel or whether that event is going to go or not. I'm actually on the board for the club, so I will keep that updated with Linda and make sure that everybody gets the information out as soon as we can. In Michigan right now, we were on an essential travel only, but also that would include outdoor activities. So right now the field is still operational as far as people being able to come out and fly. But as far as events go, we're really just trying to wait as long as we can. Our club actually owns our field, so we're able to make that decision later in the game. For somebody like Chuck and RJ over at the Goshen event, they, like Linda said, they're on airport property, and the airport property managers shut all the events down for the entire season. So for those like Warbirds and Classics over Michigan, I know for sure we're going to make that decision as late in the game as we possibly can. And then I can't speak for the rest of them, but I'm sure most of these other places are going to do the same. They're going to wait till the very last minute to make sure that you guys can plan for it. You know, they won't wait till the day of or whatever, but they will wait as long as they can to make those decisions so that you guys will know what's going on.
Yeah,
Wow.
I have spoke with Windy City, and they're doing the same thing. They're just patiently waiting and watching, and will make their decision, a little bit later or closer to their event. So that then frees us up until we go into August, where we have Minnesota and Wisconsin, Fond du Lac, and even September, which is Indiana Warbird campaign, and then the Bluegrass. We have the luxury of a little bit more time.
Right, and the cool thing about it is I know what we're hoping out for is what I should say is that they come up with a solution. I've been keeping a close eye on what's going on. It sounds like they've got a couple of things in the work, and I know because of the situation that basically the entire planet is in, this is probably going to get fast tracked pretty quickly with some type of a solution or some type of a treatment or something, and that's what we're holding out hope for. Obviously, we want to make sure that everybody remains safe. As you guys all know that are here, we all rely on the camaraderie and being able to get out and see the folks. Myself and Linda were speaking about that before we went live. That's part of our lives, and we're going to do what we can to make sure we support what we can, why we can, basically is what it amounts to. And as more information comes out, we'll make sure to get that stuff to you.
Yeah, you use the word essential, people only essential business. Well, for those of you that are like Dennis and I, Joe, we live and breathe airplanes. This is essential for us.
This is essential. Yes, it is. Absolutely.
But if we don't have our health, we don't have our airplanes. So we recognize that too.
Exactly. I'm looking on here. Okay, so why don't you, for those of us that are on here, I see that we're getting quite a few people in here. For anybody that doesn't really understand about what the Warbirds and Classics is all about, why don't you give us a brief description of what it is we do?
Sure. I'll give you a little history first. About 7 years ago, Dennis and I were running the Indiana Warbird campaign, limited budget, and we were trying to find ways to get more exposure to more pilots in different areas. And I realized, talking with Jeff Quisenberry and Carl Bachhuber and just different people from other shows, that their clubs and their affiliations were going through the same thing. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could promote each other's shows? So I gathered up 5 different events and had a meeting, and they all liked the idea that just using their announcers, using their pilot packs, things like that, again, not expensive. And yet we could get the word out, and we could spread it from state to state. And that's how the Alliance was born. I asked them who they wanted to run the Alliance, and I got the job. So we have just worked together on the website. My favorite phrase is Warbird and Classic Events Flying in Formation, because that's what we're doing. We support each other. We've got each other's six. We each take the point every now and then, and it just has really worked. All of our shows have increased in size over the years, and we want to encourage people into the industry. We want to keep history alive. I mean, what better way to teach the younger generation, not about war, but about the mechanics that went into building these airplanes, the knowledge that it took, and the bravado that it took to fly these airplanes. Some of the events will do reenactments, others will do gaggles of like airplanes. We just want to promote, and that is what the Alliance is all about, is a way of promoting. It's not about any one show, it's about all of us. And this year we are 7 strong, and we cover Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, and the northern part of Kentucky. So we're getting there. We did not want to grow fast, because when things grow fast, they don't always have a solid foundation. So I stress that we want to be solid. We want to be able to grow and build, but not have it on a sand foundation. So the group has been going strong, and I'm very proud of the guys. They all step up, the enthusiasm. And I tell them at every pilots meeting that they allow me to have the microphone, that without the pilots, none of these shows would exist. So we keep our pilots happy, then our shows are happy as well. So that's what the Alliance is all about. It's a promotional tool that has let Warbirds and classic airplanes really take the forefront in getting the pilots and the airplanes out there.
Yeah, and it's really something. I'm trying to pull up a little bit of coverage so people can see if they're not really familiar with the diversity and all the different airplanes and things that out there during these events, and the people and all the stuff that we do is really pretty awesome. If you've never attended one of these events, even if you're not into like the apps, just the Warbird stuff, they're cool events to bring the family to. If you don't want to fly, if you're only flying aerobatics or whatever you like, just bringing the family out to the events is really something to see, because it does turn into a show. I mean, we'll have planes from all different eras. We'll have jets. We'll have, last year at Fond du Lac, myself and Paul Letourneau did a heritage flight with a DR-1 and an A-10. So, this is the kind of stuff that they're involved in, and it's really helpful to the hobby that we keep these kind of things going. And it's amazing. The people, everybody involved always does a real good job, and it always turns out to be a real good show. So,
it's like
for those
one
of you
big
that
family out there.
It is.
It's wonderful. And some of the guys you'll see at every shows, other guys you only see at 1 or 2 of the shows, but you're so excited to get to see people again and talk shop and kick tires and all of that stuff. It's wonderful. I'm very blessed to be part of that kind of an industry and that kind of a hobby.
Yeah, and it really is like Linda said, it's a family, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't really, I guess, understand for these kind of things. So it's very important for us to be able to have those interactions. There's people out there that are talking about getting to spend time with your family, but for a lot of us involved in the hobby, this is our family as well. I'm trying to get to the right screen here. And this is actually one of those of you that weren't able to attend Fond du Lac last year. This was the video from the large World War I gaggle we had. I believe we had 25 or 26. I've not been able to confirm that number. I was flying, so I wasn't really paying attention. But at the end of this video, you can kind of hear the announcer say that we beat the record, which would have been 26. So, there's again, if you're in that area, this is an event you would want to actually just come to watch. It's really something to see. And if you got some of the scale airplanes, the Warbirds and Classics, come out and fly with us. It is an absolute blast.
It is.
It really is a lot of fun.
I don't fly myself. Dennis wanted me to at one point, and so I have like 30 seconds on a P-40. He talked me through a loop, and it was a recognizable loop. but I was shaking so bad. I said, nope, this is not for me. I'm going to continue to be your caller and what I deem now is a professional backseat driver. That is what I prefer to do. Now, if I'm feeling really bold, when people ask why I don't fly, I just jokingly say, well, gee, I might have ended up being a better pilot than Dennis, and I don't know how well he would have handled that.
You can't have that.
I know better than that. I could never outfly Dennis. But
there's a lot of people that can't outfly Dennis.
I like the aspect of a team. And Dennis and I always flew as a team. And as I've gotten more involved with the Alliance and with Indiana Warbird campaign, what I have seen is the other guys, the other pilots have stepped up and will go out on the line and call for him. And he calls for them. And that's the camaraderie that is, I've been in other sports and businesses where everyone is just like, oh, I can't talk to that person, or I don't want to share any information. They might do better than me. That's not a pleasant atmosphere to be in. And that's one thing, all these shows, if you can go up and you can spend a whole day going up and down the flight line, just talking to people, picking up ideas on how to do stuff, so that you're ready to build in the wintertime.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and it's really cool because I was talking about this last year with a good friend of mine, Dan Landis. Actually, Greg and Dan were the catalyst for me to get involved into the scale event, competing in the scale events. Those are the two guys that say, "Hey, you're coming, pack up your trailer and head this way." And they caught me on a weekend where I didn't have anything to do, so I did. And now I'm hooked on it. And
it gets in your blood, it's in your blood.
And I would have never thought, because I was always a go to the field and fly and have fun guy. That was my thing. I like to go to the events. I like to see the people. I like to spend time with everybody on the flight line and just fly. But the scale events, I'm telling you, we're going to have, if you are so inclined to have the time later this afternoon, I'm going to have the president of National Scale on here, Mike Barbie, and we're going to talk a little bit about the National Association of Scale Air Models during that segment. I'm just telling you, you'll be hooked. It's so much fun, and it's so funny because you can see guys, and we'll be out there and we'll be calling for one another, and then in the next round when it's their turn, I'll call for them and they'll call for me. We're literally competing against each other, but we're out there helping each other. And that's always been one of the big things with me about this hobby is that you can, any place you go. And that was one of the first things that struck me when I got into the hobby. There's always people there willing to help you. And I say it all the time. Every club has at least 2 jerks and everybody else is great. And that's just the way it is. It's just how this hobby is based. It's awesome.
It is. We went into scale competition in 1983
Nice.
and there were two guys vying for the top honors every year. They just changed it back and forth, and that was Kent Walters and Tom Cook. And the first Scale Masters that Dennis and I competed in, Dennis came in third to those two, and we felt like we had won it. And Kent Walters stepped up and congratulated us, and he says that when he steps onto the flight line in front of the judges, he's going to do everything he can to outfly you and beat you. But the moment he is landed and comes back to the pits, he will do anything he can to help you.
Right, and that's the way it is.
Young kids, that stuck with Dennis and I, and it became a way that we have conducted literally every business, every phase of the hobby that we've been in. We're here to help.
Absolutely. So I had a question pop up from Ron. Sure. Ron says, are these events limited to scale models, large scale models?
Yes, we do have. If you go on to the Warbird and Classic website, on the bottom of that page is called Standards. And if you click on that, that will bring up what the Alliance recommends the standards to be. Now, it is not, it is not written in stone. Okay, each event has the right to, um, I can't say defy the rules because
Dictate.
that's the wrong terminology, but they can interpret it differently to again fit their event. But the standards basically gives you a rough outline of what the shows are based on.
Yeah, and basically, from my experience with all the events that I've ever been to, they follow the AMA standards on giant scale. So you have to have an
Yes.
80-inch minimum wingspan on a mono wing, and you have to have a 60-inch wing on a biplane, or 61-inch wing on a biplane, and jets have to be 140-inch combined length and span.
Right.
And that's basic, right down the middle of the road of the AMA giant scale guidelines.
Right. Now, like with Indiana Warbird campaign, what we do is during regular flying hours, these standards are in effect. But at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, we open up the field. We highly recommend that it still remains scale. But that's when the little foamies come out. That's
Sure,
when
sure.
the ones that at the end of the day, when you just want to kick back and relax and have fun, and don't have to worry about a scraped up wingtip,
Right.
you bring those out. As long as they're still scale, we're happy. That way, everyone can fly a little bit of everything.
So a lot of folks, Ron, like to fly the 1/6 scale airplanes. I know at Boss USA we have a couple on there that actually do qualify for the giant scale rules. So you could, if you're looking for something smaller that you'd be able to fly, like the quarter scale, the 6 scale biplanes are all legal except for, I think I'm looking to here to see, I think there's only 2 that we have that wouldn't meet that minimum requirement. So I know there's a lot of guys that fly the 1/6 scales during these events.
Yeah. Another thing I would recommend is the event that you're thinking about going to, contact the CD. And because we have this happen every year again with IWC, is we'll have somebody contact, say, is this particular airplane at this size going to be legal at your event? And
Right.
So just call them. I mean, they're approachable. They will be honest and let you know, and that way you've not spent a lot of money to travel, or you're going, hey, they more than welcomed me and my airplane's legal, so off we go.
And one of the other things I'll point out is if you're just looking to get to some events, if all you have is the smaller stuff and you're not looking to necessarily fly during the event, these are great hangouts. They really are. There's a lot of people that camp, like at our field here in Grand Ledge. We get 100 pilots. We've been, well, I shouldn't say we get 100 pilots because we've been kind of skirting that 100 pilot. We're getting close. Each year we get a few more, and then we're in the mid 90s now. But at an event like Goshen, I think what they had last year, Linda, they had like 500 or something like that, or I can't remember what they had. They had a lot.
I don't see. That's one thing. The Alliance does not keep track of those numbers, so I honestly don't know.
Yeah, Chuck and them had a huge number of people last year. They like tripled our numbers. It was crazy. Yeah. So just to come out and have fun and fly, and as Linda said, during the evening hours, it usually opens up, usually around 5, 6 o'clock, and to opening up for just regular fun flying. Like she said, we do like to try to keep it to the scale, Warbirds and Classics. So Cubs, all that kind of stuff does qualify for that. Every once in a while, we'll get a couple of guys out there in the evenings with some of the smaller, not tiny, but the smaller EDF jets. And after the event hours are over, there's still a lot of flying going on. So like as last year, no, actually the year before, honestly, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it was the year before last. Our crew from Boss USA was here, and it was rainy. And the event pretty much rained out. But I want to tell you, in 2 days of that event, we went through 2 5-gallon cans of gas, and there were 3 of us flying. And so in the evenings in Michigan, as you know, it stays light out till 10:30. And we were ripping props all day, all 3 days. So make sure, if it's something you're interested in, come on out.
Yeah, I mean, at the events that have been unfortunate enough to have a rain out day, very few of the guys leave. They are right there, under tents talking. And the moment it slacks just a little bit, they all run out to the flight line and start flying before the next wave of rain comes through.
That's totally true.
It is. It's back to that camaraderie that is so special within the Warbird and Classic people.
Yeah, RJ's chimed in, and I was way off. He had 112 last year.
Okay.
112.
Thanks, RJ.
So it wasn't
it used to be.
It wasn't 500.
Well,
it made it sound cool though.
when you stop and think that just about every pilot shows up with a buddy, even if it's a non-flying buddy or a wife or a girlfriend or kids or whatever, you add those people up and you do have a 500-person event.
Sure.
Very easily.
Very cool. He says they had 112. That's the number I was looking at, was the number of airplanes. That's how I got confused. They had 112 pilots and about 300 aircraft.
Yeah.
That's the number I was confused on. So very cool. And yes, to answer your question, Ron, Piper Cubs are considered classics. The first Piper Club flight was in 1938, and it is absolutely considered one of the classic airframes.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
And the classics sometimes are determined. I use a standard of 50 years or older. Some of the other events adjust that to 30 years or whatever, and that's at their discretion. But under the standards, we highly suggest 50 years. Which, when you get to be my age, you think 50 years wasn't that long ago.
Well, I was having a discussion with Greg when he came on the show last evening, and he said that he was I think he said he was at Top Gun in Toledo in 1974. And I had to make sure I pointed out the fact that I was still in grade school. So yeah, it's all good.
Okay. Now you've really made me feel bad, because I was thinking Dennis took me to Toledo the first time, and it was, that would have been the spring after we got married. So that would have been in 75. So
wow.
Now you would be 7.
That's all good. It's all good.
Oh goodness.
Perfect.
But I have to say that it does feel really weird not having a Toledo this year. And I want to personally thank you for doing this, because through this, we're seeing and contacting and enjoying the camaraderie that we start the season off with at Toledo.
And that was the whole point. Yeah, you're welcome. And it's a pleasure for me to get everybody on the show and have a chance to do the same thing you're doing. It's the interaction that everybody's craving right now. And that was really the entire goal of starting this, was because I wanted to make sure that with us all being locked under lock and key for a while, that we were still able to get on and still able to interact and talk around and back and forth, and have some of that interaction. Not only that, but also let the folks know that we are all still here. We're still in business. We're still doing what we can. And orders are shipping and processing. And I know there'll be a lot more stuff coming out from the Warbird Alliance and all the other vendors that we've had on the show. So that was the whole point. For me, Toledo, for me, is number one. As you well know, it's a lot of work. Anybody that's never done trade show work could not even imagine the work that's involved for a trade show the size of Toledo. So now with something like this going, I feel like we can enjoy a lot of the experience without actually having to put in a lot of the work. So it's kind of nice to be able to, other than I'm getting a little butt sore by sitting in this chair for the last 3 days, but it's one of those things where I think everybody is enjoying it, and I know I'm enjoying getting to be able to talk to folks and enjoy at least a little bit of that Toledo experience. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I sat here and put a video together, and I put out on the Facebook for the Alliance that, I was at our winter headquarters. I guess now I have to change it to our spring headquarters. And, at this rate, it's going to be summer headquarters. But I miss oh, I wasn't going to do this. I really miss everyone, you know. Um, some people call me, proud mama of the Alliance. Well, yeah, I am very proud of not just the events, but of the people. And I enjoy seeing each and every one of them. And I really do miss them. So as much as I am enjoying being at home, I'll be ready to get out and see everyone and fly again and maybe give a few people a hard time and let them,
That's the fun part.
to me back.
Well, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that even before I was involved heavily and actually now with Balsa USA, this is one of the events and one of the things that I always enjoyed going to. It's always really well done. The folks there are always real friendly. Linda's always willing to step up and help out wherever she can. And she does a great job of running in and promoting the Alliance. And if your local club has got any interest at all in an event like this, I would suggest contacting Linda. She is the know-all, do-all of this whole thing. And, they talk about Dennis. You hear about Dennis a lot out in the RST community. And it's a true story that behind every strong man is an even stronger woman. And Linda is the epitome of that, just like my beautiful wife is on my end. And the thing is we couldn't do it without you. And all of us that are participating, set aside the whole Balsa USA thing, I would still come to the events just because they're that much fun. And just to see the people.
Admit, early on in our RC career, there weren't that many wives that enjoyed the airplanes. Most of them hardly tolerated them. So I was out there alone a lot with the guys, and now the wives are getting involved, and it's just so wonderful to see that, to see a husband and wife out there on the flight line. And by the way, hi Sue, my sister. Anyway, she. And then you've got people like Tina Patton.
Yep.
She's out there flying on her own now.
Yeah.
I mean, bless her heart. Go girl, go.
I follow her build videos all the time with their projects and stuff they're working on with the dog and the shop videos and pictures. I'm on there all the time.
Yeah, I between keeping track of her airplanes and Bernice,
Right.
But it's just, that shows in the length of time that I've been involved how, again, the hobby has expanded and grown. It used to be rare you just saw a father and son. And then you started seeing that more. And then now you're seeing, I even know of a father-daughter combination. And that's the first one of those was Bob Violet and Patty. But that was a rarity. And now you're seeing all of that more and more. And that just, again, tells you what a good, wholesome, wonderful atmosphere that all of our events have.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000,000%. Well, we're coming up on about 40 minutes now. So I want to let Linda get back to her keeping Dennis in line. I know that's a full-time job in and of itself. So
yeah, I've been hearing noises coming out of his shop, so I have no idea what he's doing out there.
So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know our viewers appreciate seeing you and having a chance to communicate back and forth. And we look forward to the rest of the season when it comes. And we will keep you guys posted. And again, thank you for all you do with the Warbirds and Classics Alliance and Balsa USA 100%. And also Mean Joe will always support it and will always be here. And I'm looking forward to getting to the field and getting it started.
Well, thank you so much for including me on this. And again, without you guys, you, Joe, and without all the pilots out there, we'd be nothing. So thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, as well. So don't forget, this entire weekend over at balsausa.com, you can still take part in the Toledo Keep Calm and build on sale. Coupon code, all caps, no spaces, Toledo 2020 will get you all show special pricings on all kits and accessories for those kits that we would have had at the show. And at the same time, you will be entered in to win a 1/3 scale Balsa USA, fully laser cut, fully redesigned Sopwith Pup kit. As always, we thank you very much for watching, and happy building.